I have said for a while that I think Game Freak and the Pokemon Company don't like this generation internally. I've said that for a while. And replaying through these games, I think I kind of see why. But also just in terms of market power, I talked about this on my last stream. I think like in Pokemon spin-offs and in merch and in just general stuff with the brand, you see less Gen 5 Pokemon than any other generation easily.
Wait, pause. Do you think that could be just like a percentage thing because Gen 5 introduced the largest amount of new Pokemon for a generation, like period, even more than Gen 1?
Yeah.
There's just like a smaller percentage being represented, even though maybe it's the same amount of Pokemon.
I think
as other gens?
I think in Gen 4 you have a Lucaria, right?
Okay.
And I think in every gen you can really pick out some Pokemon and go, oh, these were the stars. These were the ones that were like, they kind of are now part of the greater Pokemon brand.
Yeah.
And like the reason that we see Gen 1 and Kanto remakes all the time is because that part of the brand has the most brand power. It has the most, market power and market potential. And I think you see how they use different generations and it kind of tells you what they think about market potential. For example, I think Gen 4 for some reason has a lot of relevance for people. And those were the games that got BDSP and the let. You know what I mean? There's something there. And I think
keep going on.
And I think if you look at Gen 5, you look at the number one Pokemon from Gen 5, I think is Chandelure.
That's exactly what I was thinking of.
And that's not good, Dusty. That's weak.
I mean, no, it's a great Pokemon, but
It's a great Pokemon. It's a great Pokemon.
I'm looking at the list right now. We have Excadrill, Volcarona, Crocodile. I love these Pokemon. Conkeldurr. I love to see Conkeldurr up there.
Yeah.
These are great Pokemon, but you're right. I don't look at them and think, this is a Pokemon. It actually doesn't match Charizard, Lucario, Greninja, even Greninja in the following generation. It just doesn't have that same type. I don't know what it is. I'm looking at these Pokemon and I understand them. That I know they exist in the world, but they don't look.
And Dusty, I swear to God, I think part of it is a self-fulfilling prophecy where they do the brand does less with these Pokemon, so you associate them less with the brand.
That could be it. I can't think. Yeah, like they're not in. Yeah, I'm just like, I'm trying to think of what media they're in. And I'm like,
it's crazy.
It's nothing. Chandelure is in Unite, which I don't play.
And Pokken.
Yeah, you're right. And
like that's crazy that it's the one. It's in both of those. That's the one.
You know, Landorus is super popular, but that's only because of the competitive, and that's only maybe VGC as well. I was gonna say maybe only because of singles competitive, which isn't even officially recognized. But yeah, dude, you're totally right.
It's so interesting.
So I definitely think a lot of these Pokemon, and I kind of dropped this in one of your streams in your chat at one point. But I definitely had a visceral reaction to Gen 5 when it first debuted. I think I was in college, or maybe no, I was in high school, and it was definitely really jarring to me that I couldn't interact with these Pokemon in this world with familiar faces, with the familiar Pokemon, which was the whole gimmick that Gen 5 was going to be a fresh what do they call it, like a soft reboot, right?
Sure.
And I think obviously that is their intention. Their intention was like, let's make another Gen 1 where it's just these Pokemon in just this region and it's fresh. But I definitely think there's something to say that like experiencing this world, especially this engine, right? I think what I'm saying might not have the same effect if it was in 3D, but I think seeing this engine, which also looks a lot different from Heart Gold, Soul Silver, right? It's less saturated. It's very sharp. There's a lot. You can see all the pixels, right? It's also not a Japanese region, so like visually, culturally, there's a lot of separation in this game from the first 4 generations, and I think experiencing this engine with a completely new Pokemon is like, that's actually the problem that I think people have with like the, this new Dex. I don't think it's actually that they can't use Pikachu and Charizard. I think it's actually that they can't like, Is this making sense? Like it's like if you were watching Star Wars and it was called Star Wars, but Chewbacca wasn't in it, right? And R2D2 wasn't in it.
Yeah.
And C3PO and Luke. I mean, obviously, it's like if there's no cultural touch points in this game to what came before, it's just gonna feel like a completely different game. And I think that's Gen 5's biggest issue until you get to Black 2 and White 2, and then you're like, Lucario's here, Marip is here.
Yeah.
And then you love it. And I love playing through Black 2 and White 2. And I wish we got the Gen 3 remakes. We were supposed to get Gen 3. We weren't supposed to, but people speculated that the Gen 3 remakes were going to be in the Gen 5 engine. And I think that would have cemented Gen 5 as like a goated era. But instead, they jumped to 3D.
Yeah.
So that's my whole spiel.
Wow.
That was a lot. I don't know where that came from.
No, I love it. That's kind of like the thing that I think is so interesting about these games. And I think like when you take a step back and try to identify what has market power in the world of Pokemon, I do think something jumps out about these games where it's like they're just not on the same level. They have not been invested in the same way that a lot of other Pokemon generations and have.
Yeah, like, that's interesting. Yeah. Because I want to say that maybe is also like Generation 7, because I know Gen 7 had a lot of pushback for more of the gameplay, not so much the world or the characters, but really the gameplay. I know the biggest issue there is that it's too handholdy and there's a lot of dialogue that you can't skip, which I think, that's a whole discussion. But when I think of Generation 7, I go, but there's a bunch of Pokemon that like are stand out and feel like Pokemon. I think of Mimikyu. That's iconic, right? Even though it's
great
a little
pick.
derivative of Pikachu. That's the whole point.
Yeah.
It still is like a great standalone Pokemon. Let me think if I can think of any other Pokemon that just stand out in Gen 7. I guess you have all the Alolan forms, but then again, that's derivative of what
I gotta tell you, I feel like Rowlet was kind of like a jump out. And I mean, Incineroar is in Smash Brothers.
You're right, dude. Incineroar. Lycanroc, people love that. People love Beware.
And even just the Alolan forms as a concept.
Yeah.
I like that was huge.
Like that's what Generation 5 needed. Generation 5, if Generation 5 had regional forms and there was only new Pokemon plus 5, like, or maybe not 5, I don't know, like 10 new families that got regional forms, that would give you that actually does what Gen 5 wanted to do, which is to show you that like we have.
Yeah, actually it does. Yeah, you're 100% right.
It's like we have rats here too, but they're called Pat Rat. We have birds here too, but they're called Pidove or whatever, right? But regional forms actually cemented that it's like, no, this is what you love, but it looks different here, right?
Dang, dude. That's the second thing now. The affection mechanic and regional forms both should have been in this game. It makes so much sense in this game.
It would be so much better, dude.
Yeah.
And then again, it's like just seeing like a regional Pikachu or whatever. I don't know, regional Nidoran, like a Unova Nidoran, dude. And they're like the little bunnies that live in the Northeast, just like a like a brown rabbit, dude. Anyways.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. Gen 5, I think we were talking a little bit off stream.
Yeah.
And I think Gen 5 has a lot of great things going for it. I like the biomes. I like I think the engine is really pretty. I think like the art design is really nice. It feels like a natural progression. It definitely like it's not as smooth or as polished as the Gen 4 engine. But I think it's like as far as you could probably take the 3D engine. I'm sorry, the 2D pixel art engine. So I really appreciate it for that. And I don't know, what do I like about it? Because I think a lot of people give it credit for the story, which you've kind of already talked about a little bit.
Yeah. God, my last stream, I don't know if you watched it, Dusty. I went off.
I heard a couple. I've heard some rants.
I had a moment that lasted 2 hours. I think.
Yeah.
Oh God.
Jeez, I think I gotta watch that. And yeah, I don't know. I do enjoy Gen 5. I love playing through my copy of Black 2 and White 2. Oh, that's another thing. In Black 2 and White 2, they did you can get the shiny charm. So it brings down the high odds for shinies. It brings it down a significant amount. And then you can do double battles in the wild grass. So you can like actually I found like a lot of shinies in Black in my copy of
is that's like end game though, right? You have to like do the Pokedex to get the shiny charm.
End game. But there's also just like so many yeah, I guess it's like the biomes, but also just like there's so many cool places to visit, right? I love playing through Black 2 and White 2, where you start on the other side of the region and you go through it, and there's actually progress. I feel like what they did with Black 2 and White 2 to show the 3-year gap and what had happened after the events of the original game is what Johto actually was trying to achieve originally. Yeah. And I know you had some criticisms for the Kanto part of the Gen 2 or the of the Johto experience, right? Like you go to Kanto after, in post game. Which is totally fair. There's really nothing that happens. I think it's just the novelty is experiencing a game kind of in the aftermath of the main story, right? It's
100%. And I think now with some distance from it, I definitely appreciate it more as like a video game thing.
Yeah.
And I think it was just so like not what I was loving about Heart Gold that it like hit me hard. Yeah. But now, like, the more I think about it, the more I'm like, novelty is the word. It's okay to have some novelty. And I also just think that, like, if Heart Gold for me was so much about, like, the art of building sentimentality, then I think the second half of it when you go to Kanto is, okay, we spent the first half of the game building sentimentality. Now we're actually going to reflect on sentimentality that we know you, the player, have for that last game. And I think that's kind of cool that it does both of those things. Yeah.
Yeah. So if you can get through Black and White and you play Black 2 and White 2, you're going to get that. You're going to see how all the characters change and how, like, what their different lives are. I think this is something that you've said before where it's like it's like you want to feel like the world is living around you.
Yeah.
Right? And you're not just in this static environment. And that's definitely what these types of games feel like. And I think but the cherry on top and why Black 2 and White 2 takes it a step further is that it's I remember you were saying, like, you're like, what, when I go back to Route 1, why is everything level 2, right?
Oh, so annoying, dude.
In Black 2 and White 2, you go back to Route 1 in the post game and everything's level 50 and there's new encounters.
Okay. Yeah,
and there's like new things, and I think you described it like it should be a situation where it's like there's stronger Pokemon, but they're not gonna like bother with you.
Yeah.
Right? And that's you said that on your stream, and I was like, yes, that is like that is
you can contextualize it. Yeah, of course. Dude, and it's so funny to me that I got so mad in Kanto because I'm like, they are telling me that the gym leaders are way stronger, but the wild Pokemon are not.
Yeah.
Come on. It's so annoying. But it's easy. It's a little. All it takes to fix that kind of stuff is just like a little trick. Is a little. You have one person say one line, and then all of a sudden you're good,
filled
baby.
With that. Yeah. Pokemon NPCs explain so many things that are irrelevant.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I think this is. Maybe it's stupid. Maybe it's just like me liking sequels, right? It's like it's my baby brain being like, give me more of this IP. But yeah, I love to revisit regions. I think it's so cool.
No, me too. Oh yeah.
Right.
Well, Dusty, now you know what you have me thinking about? You have me thinking about the third version now, and if we've lost something.
Yeah. Oh, are you asking?
I kind of think we have. The more I've gone back and revisited these games, I'm like, oh God, what deal with the devil did we make for the DLC in place of the third versions? Yeah. And it's like, because you know what the third versions were? Looking back, I'm like, oh my God, it's Game Freak getting an extra year and change of polish.
yeah.
Like, oh no. Yeah.
And they get an extra 6 mil, right? Or 6 mil, units sold.
Right. Gives them a little license to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When you said third version, I thought you meant Black 3 and White 3.
No. I just mean the like the emeralds and the
yeah. I don't know. To me, I think the third versions were interesting but played out. I'm glad they swapped it.
They were played out. You are right. Yeah. They were played out. Yeah.
I just think I think they kind of, I don't know. Like, I mean, I guess. So what happened? We got Black 2 and White 2, which is so cool. I think that's awesome.
Yeah.
Because it's literally, it's like a DLC, but because DLCs didn't exist on the hardware at the time, they just like, you get a brand new experience. Yeah. Even though it's just the same game, but a little bit different. I guess that, we didn't really get it in Gen 6 because we just got the Hoenn remakes. Gen 7 tried to do the double version they're like, oh, it's an alternate timeline, or it's like
right.
a different ending to the story. But then it's like that's just that's two versions of a third version, which is kind of stupid. And then we started getting DLC, which DLC is fun, but I don't know if we've discussed this or if this was with maybe AJ or someone else, but I'm the kind of player who like I want to play through the whole game again. Like I want to rewatch a movie. I don't really want to like, like I don't appreciate as much playing through the whole game and then just like grinding the same file. Like I've definitely done that in the past, and I have some games where I do that, but it's mostly with shiny hunting and it's on my own time, but it's not for like competitive or whatever. So yeah, I think the DLC is, I think a lot of people like it. A lot of people buy it. It is nice to get like kind of an add-on to your like modern playthrough. But if I had it my way, the sequel games is I think really special.
It is. It's definitely weird to go back to the team you played through the main campaign, and it's like, all right, here's some new content now. Pokemon in the Wild are level 50, and it's all kind of easy, but also kind of not. And it's just such a. It is tough. It is tough to not start from. I always liked in the third version picking it up and being like, oh, now I get to pick a different starter and make different choices.
Exactly.
And you also that always spoke to me. Yeah.
And you also get to replay the whole game again.
Yeah.
So which and with all the previous, like with all the new information you have, right? It's like the story, but then you get to replay it, and there's deviants. There's like deviants in the story, which kind of catch you off guard. So it's like it's this familiarity juxtaposed with like, oh wait, this is different. Oh wait, now we're getting Rayquaza, or it's like what is this new distortion world? Like I've never seen that before. And I think there's comfort in replaying games. I was gonna ask you something. Oh yeah, so the thing that is like, so I do these every month. I just kind of think to myself, I go, okay, what are the next 5 games gonna be?
Yeah.
For whatever new information that we've just like, whatever. Like, what are the next 5 games? And I'm always thinking about that, and it just keeps shifting in my mind. And I actually hate that DLCs take up a whole year. Like I think the DLC should take up like 6 months. Right. And then there should be another game. And again, I'm greedy, and also I'm definitely taking it for granted that we get a new Pokemon game every single year. Like that's amazing.
Right.
But hopefully with this new Pokemon Works situation, I don't even know if that was officially announced or if it was just like a leak or whatever, but we don't know anything about it, but it's supposed to be like a new team working on Pokemon games. If we've got that in tandem with Game Freak, I mean, just I would prefer that they would be able to give us the. What I'm trying to get at is like, okay, whenever we're gonna get Gen 10, great. But I'm like, I don't want 2 years of a Gen 10 game. I don't know. That just doesn't sound fun to me. Or it's like, and then we get a remake, and then the remake has a whole extra year of DLC. That just doesn't sound fun to me.
You know what's funny too is that I think the DLC is like a little bit of a head fake where the games start to become a little larger in scope. Like the production time needed is longer, and I think the DLC, it's funny, I was saying like the third version is so they get an extra year of polish, but really the DLC is the B team is going to make the DLC so that the A team can have an extra year of working on the next game. And that's why there's DLC. It's like, It's
essentially just the third version. So, we've talked about how maybe you've definitely said your piece about how Black and White doesn't have really as great of a story as people give it credit for.
Right.
But do you think there are any Pokemon stories or Pokemon games that do have like a compelling story, or are taking chances, or are doing things that are revolutionary? Maybe not revolutionary. That's a big term.
Yeah. Okay, so I think it is hilarious that people talk about Black and White games as having the best story and not Sun and Moon. That to me is, I have no idea what's going on.
Yeah.
But
I think Can I just want to maybe add, I think just hearing you say it like that, I think the big difference between those two stories are that Black and White are kind of like really conceptual. They're like philosophical. They're just like, is it right to do this? right?
Yeah.
Is it right to be a trainer? Is it right, evil, evil is subjective, truth is subjective, whatever. But Sun and Moon is the type of story that I'm always compelled to, where it's really just about like a mother and a daughter, right? Or a mother and a daughter and a son. That's at least the story that I'm remembering. I don't know really too much about the plot, but to me, it's like that. Lily
I even think Dusty,
by her mother.
Like the outside of that stuff, I think the way that the story moves upon revisiting, like when you go somewhere and who you're introduced to and why, and like the Team Skull functioning as kind of like a trick to make you think that there's a lot of like,
they're really
and
just
all
like
this,
outcasts to society.
The stuff with the kahunas, I think is like, there's all this stuff in there. And it's funny, I've said before, like, I think the Pokemon's real story has to do with so much of like what you, the player, do. That's part of the story.
Yeah.
So sometimes when a game is too into the stuff that doesn't have to do with your choices and your decision making, I find that that's a weaker story for Pokemon. But I like the framing of Sun and Moon. I like the setting being something ultra specific, being the thing. It's not gyms, we're doing this kahuna thing. There's these totem Pokemon. There's Team Skull. I'm like, oh yeah, all of this stuff is way more compelling to me than anything we're doing in Black and White. The Team Plasma?
Yeah.
No, come on. So I don't know. I think it depends on what you look for in a Pokemon story for sure. But yeah, it's funny to me on like the specific qualifications of what people like about Black and White. I think they're just executed better in Sun and Moon. And then I think for like a lighter Pokemon story where it is more about the players, the things that you do, I think Heart Gold was like masterful at showing that off. I also think the Gen 1 games are pretty good at doing that too, and just kind of like dressing things. Yeah.
What about the yeah, because in Black, I really don't know. Even though I just played Black and White and I just played Black 2 and White 2, I started playing these games like kind of passively. Like I play them while like I don't know. Like sometimes I'm just like blending them in my mind.
Yeah.
And I'm like, they're definitely like, I'm thinking about the characters, right?
Yeah.
There's a huge cast of characters in Black and White, and I think at the time, that was the first time where like they depicted every single gym leader as all, like they showcased what their day job was as well.
Yeah.
Right. Which can also make the player feel like, okay, there's stuff going on, right? These are real people. These aren't just like, this isn't just like a boss battle. These are real humans. And I know Sun and Moon does do that. So I think those are pretty equal if we're going to give these rankings. Yeah, I don't know. I got to play through Sun and Moon as well. Again, it's been a while.
Yeah, I really like Sun and Moon. I started that up on the 3DS maybe like a month ago, and I was just like, I just want to feel how this and like, I think the opening to that game is like so strong. And I do understand if you're somebody who like your whole life is Pokemon, and I think sometimes people just want to get to the thing that they like about Pokemon, which is oftentimes not the game talking at you.
Yeah.
And like I don't know, man, that there are a few things I remember in Pokemon, like that first scene in Sun and Moon of Lily running from the freaking dude. That's iconic. It's memorable. It's memorable.
It's like a movie.
Yeah,
and it's attacked by the Pharaoh or the Sparrow.
It's so cool, dude. And like
maybe they're Murkrow.
Even like Nebby on the bridge, and you like have to walk out and go get Nebby. I'm like, no, this is good actually. This is good. It's memorable. It's iconic, I think.
No, that is really good. Yeah. That's true. I lost my train of thought. I was gonna say something about Gen 1. Yeah. No, I think you're absolutely right. I think about this scene in the client. I mean, Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon is epic. Or what is it? Ultra Necrozma is epic, is what I meant to say.
Oh yeah, all that stuff at the end there is actually really cool.
And then there's like the fusion of her mother and like,
crazy.
Yeah, there's a ton of personality. I'm a little unqualified to be talking about it as much. Yeah, I don't know. I think I lost my train of thought. I was gonna say some people like. Yeah, I lost my train of thought.
That's all right. Listen, I just think like something I think about with a big brand like Pokemon, similar to something like a Star Wars, is that the thing that I've always thought was genius about Star Wars was their ability to create iconic, memorable stuff. The lightsaber, iconic and memorable. The music, iconic and memorable. Darth Vader, iconic and memorable. All of this stuff. That's what they're good at. And that's why when they do the new movies and The Force Awakens, it's a little disappointing when I think it's so much like, hey, here's all this old stuff we made.
Yeah. You know
I'm
what?
like, oh no.
No, totally. I think you're totally right. What I was going to say is that I don't think Pokemon was really built, like the games were really built off of the story. They did have some iconic things in them, but I wonder if some of that's just like a product of how popular it got, or if it was popular because of those iconic things. Like Gen 1 is filled with iconic things, but again, I don't know if that's, I don't know if, whatever. I don't know what actually caused that. But I think the player base, like you were saying, they look towards the end game where they like battling. I don't think anyone likes catching, but they like battling. They like collecting. Right?
Yeah.
They like, they like trading. They like the adventure. But none of that is really like, I like the story. So when Gen 5 was introduced, to tie it back, I think Gen 5 introducing like a philosophical dichotomy, that's all it really is. It's just like this or this.
Yeah.
Right? What do you think? It's all up to the player. Like, that is compelling, especially when you're, I think that is compelling on the surface, as you've said. Do they go deeper? I don't really know. I honestly, I'm sure. That's not my specialty. But I do think even with Sun and Moon, right, when they started focusing on these larger stories and cutscenes and these cinematic moments, I think a lot of people, like you're saying, like I think a lot of people were like, great, but how do I get to the end game? Where are the battles? Where's the tough battles? How can I shiny hunt? Where are the mini games?
Battle Frontier.
Where's the Battle Frontier? And they gave us a Battle Frontier, a version of it.
Yeah.
This is fun.
Yeah. Dusty, when are we going to have a show?